Hello everyone. Hope everyone's doing fine. I'm back with a new topic, legal content writing and 5 things you should know. I receive a lot of queries around legal content writing and how can one become a good legal content writer. In this video, I will be discussing 5 things which every legal content writer should know and put into practice. The first thing is know your audience. Whenever you sit down to pen down an article, a blog, or any kind of content, you should always know the target audience for whom you are writing this content. There could be lawyers and there could be non-lawyers. Both could be your target audience, depending upon the company or the client you're working for. For example, in a law firm, you might be writing to educate the existing lawyers of the firm. They may still know a lot of law, and you will not be required to explain every tiny little bit to them. On the other hand, if your client is a startup which does not have lawyers on board, and you are writing to attract their clients or their customers, or you are writing to educate the general public about a particular legal issue, you need to write in a layman's language in which everybody can understand. Hence, your content should always be structured in accordance with your target audience. Know your client. Now, this is again a very important thing. We all have diverse clients on board. Now, these clients could be anyone ranging from a legal startup to a law firm to a company to a taxation firm, etc. Now, what you need to know is, firstly, what does your client do? Because your content should always be targeted to link the function or the services that your client offers to the audience which they are catering to. Now, the aim of the content should always be to drive more and more business for your client. Hence, you should know, firstly, what does your client do? For example, if you are content writing for a startup which has made a legal tech product, now you need to know what does legal tech product do and what would be the aim or the purpose of the content you will be creating. And again, as we discussed in the first slide, whom would it be directed to? This would give a proper flow to your content as opposed to you writing something in your own style. Because as a legal content writer, your style should always vary depending upon your client and the supposed audience you're supposed to cater to. Now, the third most important thing here is publication platform. Now, a write-up can be structured in any way. It can either be a blog, it can be an article, it can be an opinion piece, etc. Now, you need to structure your article in such a way that it fits these categories. For example, if it's a blog, then it has to be written in a particular way. Similarly, if it's an article or an opinion, then there are other styles to approach the same. Also, you all need to see that the article you are writing should have an Indian or a global perspective. Now, apart from Indian clients, I also have a lot of overseas clients who would want the content to be focused or targeted towards a particular section or jurisdiction. So then you need to take this into account and structure your content in such a way that the content addresses the needs and requirements of the people or the audience of that particular jurisdiction. It could either have global connotations, domestic connotations, or international connotations. Now, also the nature of the company you're writing for. A startup can have a different purpose for the content, whereas a big company can have a different purpose for the content. For instance, a few years back, I was delivering content to a big law firm and also a smallish startup law firm. Now, the startup law firm wanted to use that content to drive more and more clients and customers, whereas the big law firm, they wanted to use that content to educate the existing lawyers on board. So therefore, you need to understand the nature of the entity and how and what these companies or these entities are driving their content to. Again, less is always better. Now, this is something I keep talking about all the time. I see a lot of articles and blogs and content which go on and on and on. So there would be historical facts, there would be case laws, there would be a lot of material stuffed into 4 or 5 pages. Now, as an audience, I would not want to sit and sift through these 4 or 5 pages. I would want something which is clear, crisp, and concise. Preferably not more than 2 to 3 pages. Your content should be very to the point and specific. You can start with introducing the problem. You connect what the issue that you are discussing, move on to the arguments you are setting forth. Or for example, if you're discussing a particular latest statutory or legislative development, you may discuss the key points of a particular legislation, analyze the same and end it. And this exercise should not take you more than 1,000 to 1,500 words. So therefore, try to make it a smallish article as opposed to something which may run into pages and pages. Because honestly speaking, no one really has the time to read these pages and pages and a long drawn article. Now, choose the tone of the content. This is very important because a lot of times the legal content writers confuse that what should be the tone of the content that they are writing. Because all of us are lawyers, mostly legal content writers would be lawyers, and they would want to show their knowledge in the content. But that is not something which you are supposed to do. A lot of times, so again, this also depends from client specification to client specification. Most of my clients want a conversational article, which would be easy to understand by even a layman. And to be very honest, if I were an audience who, for example, wanted to know how the inheritance laws of India work, if I go and search for inheritance laws of India in Google, I would want the simplest, easiest, basic article, which would educate me what to do and how to do. I personally feel structuring an article or a blog as a FAQ is always better, because that way you are able to pinpoint to specific queries and address people's specific concerns, as opposed to legalese. Now again, it depends from client and audience you are catering to. Now this another thing is, for example, you are giving content to a legal tech company who then sells their legal tech software to certain lawyers. Now, if these lawyers are going to use your tech platform, they would obviously not want something very generic and basic. They would want something which has a lot of research and case laws gone into it. So then again, there the legalese part comes into picture, and you will have to stuff legalese into your article or blog if you are catering to such an audience. Therefore, the tone of the content should always be modified, keeping in view the audience your blog or your article is catering to. Again, active versus passive. I personally am a big fan of using active voice in my legal content, because the moment you start addressing your audience as you, and the moment you start saying, we think that you should do this, or we think that the law should say this, this is some way you establish a link or a connection with your audience. And everybody likes that. Trust me, your audience reading your blog, if they come across things like, you should do this, we suggest you should do this, things like that are going to connect with your audience, as opposed to, you are required to do this and this. Hence, you should always write in an active voice as opposed to a passive voice. Again, that's my personal preference. You can choose, but typically clients also prefer usage of active voice. So these are the 5 things which you should keep in mind before you start with your legal content writing. In case you have any queries, please do feel free to contact me. In case you need any material around it or any further tips on it, please do feel free to contact me. Thank you. Stay safe, stay home.